guys, it's Dani. Today we're having a Phalaenopsis day. We're gonna take a little bit of a tour of this shelf, which I dedicated it to the Phalaenopsis. But what I'm gonna show you are those special phals and also mini phals that recently have become more of an interest to me than the regular phals. Don't get me wrong, all phals are nice, but the standard ones just take up so much space, and I just discovered that I'm a huge fan of smaller orchids with more compact flowering. And the miniature Phalaenopsis as well as those special Polychilus type Phalaenopsis are straight up my alley. So I'm gonna show you what's in bloom on this shelf. I'm not gonna show you all of them because there are a lot. I'm thinking maybe more than cats at this point, or at least the same amount. So in the following months, I'm gonna show you all of them, probably as they bloom, but right now, we're just gonna focus on the ones that have blooms, on the ones that have IDs, and so on and so forth. So sit tight, grab a beverage, and I hope you'll enjoy this video. Let's start. If you're a longer time subscriber, you might know that this is rather new. This is a wallpaper that I purchased fairly recently. Before this, I just had the white wall here, and the problem was that the flower spikes were all prone to heading that way because it was very bright. Light was reflecting on the wall, and probably to these orchids, this was the brightest side of their space. So I had a lot of them just starting to grow their flower spikes towards the wall, and you'll see some of the flower spikes really don't have nice shapes, and it's all because of the white wall behind them. So that's why I got myself a grayish type of wallpaper. I didn't want to go for very dark colors. I still want brightness here. So that's why I got the wallpaper here. It's not glued to the wall. It's just sitting pinned in some corners. I want to see if it actually works before committing to properly gluing it, but I guess we will better tell next year. And also amongst the Phalaenopsis, you will also see some African violets. I placed these here because at some point I didn't have all that many Phalaenopsis in bloom, and I just wanted some pop of colors. Now I kind of have a little bit too many Phalaenopsis. They're almost all of them in bloom, and really I could use more space on this shelf. So I will relocate the African violets, but for now I still keep them here. Alright, so first of all, you will see on this shelf a lot of miniature Phalaenopsis. These are all store-bought. They are no IDs for the main part, and you can easily find them in flower shops or garden centers. They're nothing special or rare or anything of the sorts. They're just absolutely beautiful and they just fit. So one of the things you can do if you have smaller shelves but you love Phalaenopsis is go for the miniature Phalaenopsis. Most of them will stay pretty tiny, and if they're not truly miniature, they will be a sort of medium size. But the good thing is they will not be as big as the standard ones, and also the flower spike will not be as tall as the typical phals, not as inconvenient, maybe not as showy either. But there's something really attractive about this very compact type of display. And as I'm starting to see, there are more and more hybrids available in flower shops, hybrids that I didn't see in the past years. So who knows, always keep your eyes peeled for new and exciting varieties, but if you didn't know how to care for them, they take the exact same care as the standard ones. I don't think you need to do anything in particular for them, but they just look a little bit different. They're tinier and they don't bloom with those big showy blooms. So the one that I'm showing you here is a no ID. I'm starting to make some IDs myself because at some point it's hard to remember what each and every one is. So I named this Phalaenopsis Pink with an orange lip. Now behind it, we do have a special Phalaenopsis. This is not a miniature no ID. It's not a big orchid either, but I purchased this from a specialized orchid nursery. This is where you can find all of these special, also called novelty types of Phalaenopsis that you don't usually find in flower shops. So this was purchased from Orchids Deluxe in the Netherlands, here in Europe. But if you Google orchid nursery in your area, I'm sure you will find something in your area, most probably, that will offer these special Phalaenopsis. And this one actually has an official tag, which I'll be sure to add in a bigger display on the screen. I think it's a pretty new hybrid, and what I love most about it is this beautiful golden color. And take a look at this. As the flower ages, it becomes more and more yellow, but when it's fresh, it has a lot of freckles. I do prefer the more yellow version. As for the mother orchid, she's right there, excuse my little fungus gnat catcher. So there she is. This is the mother plant. It's not a very, very big plant, but it's not very tiny either. Most of these are pretty medium-sized. But the fact that the flower spikes are not tall makes them so versatile and so suited for very tiny spaces. Now in front of it we have another special one. Actually, people were talking in my Discord server about this one. I have it as well. It's fairly new. This is Asconopsis irendopkin I don't know if some text is missing here. I think it is. I think it's Elmhurst. And it does have buds, but look at this. Some of the buds are blasting. Now, if you're older on my channel, again, you might know I am dealing with some thrips and I'm trying to keep things under control, but the buds of the Phalaenopsis were very affected by the thrip situation and some of my phals lost their buds. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys that I do have it. There are some buds which are developing. Fingers crossed they will open, but some of them will definitely not. What's nice about this one is that it has pretty dark foliage. Looks a little bit like the Ascocentrum, but behaves pretty much like a Phalaenopsis. In the back there we have yet another Phalaenopsis. Most of these are fairly new. I just got into these hybrids in the past couple of years or so, so there's only a handful that are in my collection for quite a few years. I'll point them out. This is not one of them. This is fairly new. And this is Phalaenopsis Friday Princess Brother. Now you might not see it, but we do have some buds here. And actually I almost missed... Oh! Hi Maya. Maya decided to join us, but she won't be on the shelf. She'll be in the background. So I almost missed out on these buds because they were hidden and also they were growing inside. So in between the actual orchid pot and the decorative container. But I saw them in time, I saved them, and they look like they have a lot of spots. So exciting to see how this one will look like. Here are two Flower Shop mini Phalaenopsis that are both peloric. First, we have this one with a very common peloria type in which the petals are trying to take the shape of the lip. Do we see that we have this, how should we call it? A sort of triangular shape. This is actually very common, but so beautiful. I love this type of peloria in Phalaenopsis. It is actually my favorite one, but next to it, can we see we have a big lip Phalaenopsis. This is the first miniature. Hi, darling. Maya really wants to join us. Alrighty, so she can stay on my hand. So this is a miniature Phalaenopsis. Although big lip Phalaenopsis are pretty common or have become common, this is the first miniature one that I see. Look at that. She is almost as big as my palm. And that is great because it works beautifully in small spaces. And again, all of these orchids take the same care as their standard sized cousins. I don't have an ID for any of these two. This one looks a little bit like the Sogo Vivian, but I cannot know for sure. So of course, if you have suggestions, leave me a comment down below. Maya, you're distracting. She's so fluffy. Alrighty, so next to these two, we have a Phalaenopsis which is just as beautiful and white as Maya is. And recently I did find an ID for this one. It is a very popular multiflora hybrid which is called Soft Cloud. And oh boy, it's such a fitting name. So this one you can easily find in flower shops. It's so common. But it has the nice habit of creating a lot of tiny little flowers. These are two flower spikes actually, and they're a little branchy as well. That's why the display is so nice. And behind the display right there, this is the mother plant. So she is a true miniature Phalaenopsis. This one is not prone to the terminal spike, but it's the small variety. So if you see it, I would suggest you go for the small variety, the miniature one, not the medium-sized one. Next to it, we have my all-time favorite miniature Phalaenopsis. I found this one at the flower shop. I don't have an ID for it, but I do remember last year somebody told me the ID and I just forgot it. I forgot to make a tag. I procrastinated. I'm so sorry. So if you're still watching and you know the ID of this one, please leave me a comment down below. And I'm so sorry. I apologize, but I'll do a better job and stay on top of tags with these ones. So what I love most about this miniature is the pattern on the edge of the petals and the sepals. Do you see? It looks like a little bit of a lace. This is a little ironic because it's not the color pattern that I adore, which is more towards red and oranges, but I don't know, this one just works. I just love it. I also love the really dark little dot of color in the lip. Usually this dot is yellow, but I just find this one to be really special, and here is where you can see the effect of the white wall. This flower spike is facing this direction. I have a flower in the back which is facing the wall. I really couldn't do anything about the position because the buds arranged themselves before I put this wallpaper. So in comparison to the soft cloud, which has such a beautiful display, this one is just facing whichever direction she wants. So I'll try to avoid this next year, but this year there's nothing I can do about it. In the front we have yet another very common miniature Phalaenopsis. I do believe this is the Sogogotris. I might be wrong. I'll try to figure it out, and if I don't, I'm just gonna put a no ID sign here. This is yet again a very popular and common Phalaenopsis in flower shops. I love the pattern because it has gold, and I love golden colors, but it doesn't have a fragrance. None of the orchids that I actually showed you up until now has a fragrance, but I do have some orchids that have fragrances, and one of them is in the back because this here is not a miniature Phalaenopsis. This is yet again one of the newer ones that I purchased from Orchids Deluxe. Which one are you? This is Phalaenopsis Metuo Sun, variety Metuo number 2, crossed with Metuo King Bellina. So I see Orchids Deluxe has a lot of Metuo hybrids. Maybe they're a line of hybrids done in-house. I don't know. Nurseries sometimes do that. This one is a really nice purpley cherry red with a magenta lip. It looks quite similar to the Sogo grape, which is in bloom as well, but not really. This red is more of cherry type of red rather than an apple red. Do I make sense? Maybe not. It's a sort of pinky purple type of red. It has a slight fragrance. It's not very powerful, but I can detect a really nice fruity type of fragrance, maybe a little bit spicy even, and it does remind me a little bit of the Bellina. So I will have to check the parentage. Maybe we do have the Bellina in the parentage of this orchid. And as you can see, this is not a miniature orchid. It's one of those that I got from an orchid nursery. And while the orchid looks like a standard, the flower spikes are really not big, they're not all that elongated, and the flowers seem to be pretty compact. Here in the front we have an orchid which is again an intergeneric hybrid. This is Vandopurea Little One, which is a Sideria currently Phalaenopsis japonica crossed with Vandopsis currently Phalaenopsis parrishi. Yeah, lots of reclassification here. So it's a Phalaenopsis now, but it doesn't really look like it. So this is an older orchid in my collection that blooms every single year. She's so easy to take care of, and she always blooms. I have a flower here which opened, but this flower spike gave up growing, and this is because it was severely attacked by thrips. But the orchid actually pushed out another flower spike which grew so fast. So this happened in the past month or so. We can already see some buds happening here. So this flower spike will develop normally, but this one was affected by thrips, and that's why it stopped growing. However, this is one of the most perfumed orchids that I have. It smells like honey combined with a lemony scent, a citrusy scent. It smells really beautiful. I totally recommend this one. It's, for me, much easier to care for than the Sideria japonica, but it has a little bit of her fragrance. In the back there we have an orchid which looks a little bit like the J-Ho's Pink Girl, but it's not actually. It's yet another flower shop no ID. It's a miniature Phalaenopsis. We can see the mother plant right there. There is no fragrance and there is no ID with this one, but take a look at that flower display. Isn't it just gorgeous? And the fact that it's so compact and it also has low branches makes it so rich. Many of these miniature Phalaenopsis are actually quite prone to creating multiple flower spikes, 2 or so, because these blooms actually don't cost as much as the big blooms and the big flower spikes that the standards produce. So I see statistically, in my collection at least, that the miniature phals are much more prone to create branches and multiple flower spikes than the standard. So if you're into that, definitely check out the miniature phals. Next to it, we have a species. This one you cannot really find in flower shops, depending where you live, but in most places, this one is only findable, is that a word, in orchid nurseries. This is a species orchid which is very, very popular. It's one of the orchids responsible for many of the hybrids we have today. If you trace back their lineage and you see the parents, you'll see that the Schilleriana is amongst the ancestors of many, many, many hybrids we have today. Because the Schilleriana looks a lot like a normal or standard flower shop Phalaenopsis, doesn't she? Yes, it is the type of orchid that can produce very, very long flower spikes. Mine is a little cakey actually, and I will actually show you how tiny the plant is. But as it grows, it can create lots of branches and very, very, very long flower spikes. So we owe the size of the Phalaenopsis flower spikes in part to the Schilleriana heritage. However, the Schilleriana has a bonus, or actually two bonuses if I think about it. One is the fragrance. It smells beautiful and delicate, kind of mild. To me, it smells like violets, but I heard people saying they detect lily of the valley. It's somewhere there, very floral. And also take a look at her foliage. Oh my goodness, isn't it beautiful? The modern hybrids lost this trait, sadly, but the Schilleriana, or at least some of the cultivars, do have these beautiful leaves, mottled and serpent-like. They look beautiful, and look how tiny the plant is. Almost the size of my palm in diameter, and it created this really beautiful flower spike. Next to it, we have an orchid that does not look like it's supposed to. I presented this one in a different video. Check it down below. I'm not gonna insist too much on it. It has a really, really long name, and it wasn't supposed to look like this. It's not my favorite, I have to say, and I might give it away. So sadly, this is just not my type. It's one of those orchids which you can find in orchid nurseries, not in flower shops. But below it, we do have a really, really pretty one. This is Phalaenopsis Tine Sheen Smart. And what I love about it, except for the tiny size and compact blooming, is the color. Did I tell you guys that I love coral colors and peachy colors? I adore them. And when it comes to Phalaenopsis, they're pretty rare as I can see. And this color is just up my alley. The flowers are really tiny, as you can see. This is the first flowering of this orchid as far as I can tell, so I am expecting better shows in the future. But can we see there is a flower in the back, or actually two of them that are facing the wall? Yeah, this is one of those orchids which just grew her flower spike towards the wall, and the display is not so nice. I mean, it looks kind of empty, but it's not. There are two more flowers here. They're just facing the wrong direction. But the orchid is beautiful, and I adore the color. Next, we have yet another miniature Phalaenopsis from the flower shop. It's a purple multiflora, which I presented in a different video, well, in the same video as with the other one. And just like the white one, it has this beautiful tendency to produce branches on the flower spike. And here I only have one flower spike, and all of these flowers are just branches. It's absolutely beautiful, very, very appealing. Even though purple, yet again, I can look past the purpleness. There is no fragrance, but it just looks so pretty. Next to it, we have a species yet again. This is the Stuartiana, which is yet another very, very, let's say, popular species to have, and one that sprouted many modern hybrids that we can find in flower shops today. Again, it looks a little bit like the Schilleriana, but of course with a different color combo. I have the yellow variety, and it has the same tendencies as the Schilleriana in the sense that it produces a long flower spike with branches as the plant grows. With the Stuartiana, I do not detect any type of fragrance, but yet again we have this beautiful pattern on the foliage, not as nice as the Schilleriana in my opinion, but it is really, really pretty. And the flowers actually for me are the main attraction. They look very, very wild, a little bit like a leopard, and I think you can see the resemblance between these two, minus the color of course. So if you're not into pinks, maybe you would prefer whites or yellows. Now amongst all of these, this I believe is the only standard Phalaenopsis that I have. The mother plant is really kind of like a medium size, but compared to all of the others, she's pretty large. But what I love about it are the flowers. First, they're not big, they're kind of tiny. Second, they are displayed in this really, really beautiful multifloral type of pattern. Third, Look at the color. I don't have one single orchid in my collection with this color, which is a vibrant hot pink fuchsia color. I don't know how to describe it. I think the camera perceives it a little bit bluer than it actually is, but in reality it's a very warm fuchsia color. Let me get you in closer. There we go. I think this looks more realistic. So I had to place her here because, oh boy, this is such an impactful orchid. It has a commercial name, it's called Pink Flamingo, but if you Google search this name, you will not find anything because it's not registered. It might have a registered name, but it's a flower shop find, you guys. So keep your eyes peeled for this one because it's so incredibly rewarding. And I'm telling you, the camera does not do it justice, really. It looks so beautiful in reality. And can we see, we have 2 flower spikes on it, both branching, and we have a lot of buds yet to open. Can you imagine the display? Absolutely fantastic. So even at the flower shop, you can find these Phalaenopsis, which don't really take up all that much space, especially with the flower spikes, but they're just so rewarding. In front here we have the Bronze Maiden, which again I talked about in that video. A little development, this is very fragrant, you guys. In that video I said it wasn't fragrant. Oh, it is. It just developed a fragrance later on. It smells like the Schilleriana, but better in my opinion. It has that beautiful violet or lily of the valley fragrance with a little bit of citrus to it, I believe. It has a punch to it. It's absolutely phenomenal and I love it. I love the smell of this one more than the Schilleriana, which is one of her parents, and look at those blooms. Beautiful color, I love it. This is not a flower shop find, I got it from an orchid nursery, so if you're looking for it, look at orchid nurseries, not the flower shop. I highly doubt you will ever see it in the flower shop, in the foreseeable future anyway. And here's another one from the orchid nursery. This is a, I think Bellina hybrid, it looks like it. This is Phalaenopsis Bashi Red Sun. It's a newer Phalaenopsis in my collection, and it usually resides under the Gemma light. We saw her in the Gemma video, but I just put her here to show you. A few more buds are opening, and it looks really pretty, and it smells really nice as well. Not as yummy as the Bellina, but I can definitely detect the juiciness of the Bellina in it. It smells really lovely, kind of faint, but it's there, it's wonderful. And what I appreciate about it is the size of the flower. It has pretty big flowers on a not so big flower spike, which is fine with me. Here in the back we have another orchid nursery Phalaenopsis that is peloric, and again it's that peloria that I love. This is Phalaenopsis Yafon Green Batman. I love the name of this one. And again, can we see that the petals are trying to imitate the lip, but they're open, they're not closed. I am not a fan of those peloric Phalaenopsis which have those petals which are closed. They seem to never open. Yeah, those are not for me because I like to see the flower as it is. Well, this one is flat, but it's still peloric. So this is my most favorite peloria. There is no fragrance to this orchid, but it's yellow with orange and it's peloric, just how I like it. This one again was trying to grow a little bit towards the wall. We have a few flowers which are facing the wall there. What to do? Next year, I'm sure it will be better. Next to it, we have a true red Phalaenopsis. You guys might remember it. This is Phalaenopsis Sogo Grape. And look how pretty it is. This is my very first pure red Phalaenopsis orchid, and it's a kind of dark red. The other one that I showed you had more of a pinkish type of red. This is more of a this is actually a cherry red, and the lip is not pink or purple, the lip is red as well. There isn't a lot of fragrance to it, I have to say, but you can detect something fruity if you stick your nose into the flower. I wouldn't call it very perfumey, but it does have a little bit of a scent there. The orchid herself is not very tiny, it's a sort of medium size, but the flowers are really pretty. The only thing that I would prefer is for the flower spike not to be so tall, but it's okay. The flowers really are beautiful. The spike is not all that tall. I do believe I have a little branch here. We'll see if it decides to continue growing. Next to it, there we go. It's one of those orchids that completely grew towards the wall. It's the mini Phalaenopsis that I found locally, which looks so spectacular. Look at that. Again, I have no ID, and sadly, some of the buds have fallen. And here on this bud, do you see this little black speck? Yeah, that used to be a thrip. It's not alive anymore. Don't worry about it. I treated it. And if you don't know how I go about thrips, check the description down below. I will share a video. It's hard to explain and I don't want to just throw the idea because it really needs explanation. And if I don't tell you the full story, I feel like I'm gonna do more harm than good. So I do urge you to see that video down below. But it is working so far. However, the buds that were affected didn't make it, and that is that. It happens. Next year it's gonna be better. And here we have an orchid which is not a flower shop find. It's another Mituo. This is the Mituo King 997, and look how pretty this one is. It has a very glossy flower. It's very waxy, very thick, very sturdy, and I love this pattern. It's just beautiful, very wild. There's also a little bit of a scent to this one, not strong. Again, a little fruity, a little citrusy, not very perfumey though, but it's something there. The very perfumed Phalaenopsis orchids are the Schilleriana and her hybrids, the Bellina and close hybrids, the Violacea. This, even though a novelty or Polychilus-like hybrid, it's pretty complex. So even if this might have the Bellina in its parentage, that beautiful strong scent didn't pass through. And another thing, this one has a pretty tall flower spike, but again, nothing that compares to the flower shop Phalaenopsis. So I'm okay with it for the prettiness of the flowers, but I would love it if next year's flower spike would not be so tall. Sadly though, this is not necessarily something I can control because it's genetics at the end of the day. So all I can do is just let it do its thing. Here in the front, we do have a flower shop mini Phalaenopsis. This is the Little Gem Stripes. It didn't come with the tag, but it's a very well-known and quite popular hybrid in flower shops. And even though it doesn't have very tiny flowers, it's not a multiflora, it can actually branch out a little bit and also continue the spike. Here we can see that I have quite a few more buds starting to develop. And this is after the initial flush was already formed. So orchids can actually do that. They can continue their flower spike or even create branches. And to show you the mother plant, look at that. Look how tiny she is. It might grow just a little bit more than this, but this is the perfect orchid for me. Short flower spike, compact flowering, tiny orchid. It takes only this much space in my life. I love it. There's no fragrance though. And lastly, here we have yet another one of my favorites. This is the Phalaenopsis Tine Sheen Fly Eagle, which always blooms a little bit different. Can we see that my flower has a lot of red petals and sepals and only one seems to be rather yellow? Well, with this orchid, you never know what you're gonna get. Some flowers might be completely yellow, some completely red, and in the end, you never know what color between red and yellow every petal and sepal will be. And you can have different looking flowers on the very same flower spike or on different flower spikes opened at the same time. You will not have white flowers or purple flowers or petals. It's only with red and yellow, but each flower is just a little bit different. Now the Tine Sheen Fly Eagle has a few more buds here. This is a new flower spike. Maya, what are you doing there? She's trying to balance on a chair. So I have a new flower spike here and another one here just growing, but this is an older flower spike which is reblooming. So now I have 3 flower spikes on this orchid, which makes me very happy because I want as many flowers as possible. But with this one, the flower spikes can actually grow pretty long. It's okay. It's one of those that I can accept its behavior along with its pretty big size because it's just so wonderful. There's also a fragrance with this one. Smells really nice, kind of fruity, not very strong, but definitely noticeable. So I would look forward to the fragrance as well. So these are the little phals that are in bloom at the moment. I have more than this, but it would take forever to present all of them. So stay tuned for the Orchids in Bloom video at the end, or actually the beginning of each month. And there you'll see all of the new blooms each month. I have a funny suspicion it's gonna be a Phalaenopsis full spring, which I don't mind. But yeah, I do have a funny suspicion that I will start to give away my normal standard sized Phalaenopsis orchids because they're just too big. And even though they're beautiful, they don't bring me as much joy as these guys. Of course, I'm gonna keep some of those as well, but I do believe I have too many at this point. Alrighty guys, so thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this little tour, and you know the drill. Like or dislike this video below, subscribe to my channel for regular orchid videos, tutorials, tours, and all sorts of orchid related subjects. Visit my second channel, Miss Orchid Girl 2, follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and check out the description for even more information. And with that said, I'll see you next time. Bye!